Backstage news on the latest plans surrounding WWE Undisputed Universal Champion Roman Reigns' championship reign. Plus, we have new Women's Tag Team Champions crowned last night on Raw. A US title match has been announced for next week. Johnny Gargano wrestles his first match in 9 months. Dexter Lumis appears outside the Miz's home. We have an update on the WWE creative team and former NXT creative team members returning. Plus, Smackdown does a huge number in the ratings. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of WWE. So let's start off talking about Roman Reigns. We've got a really jam-packed show today, plenty to get into in WWE. So let's start off talking about Roman Reigns. Now, obviously, a lot of people were thinking that possibly, just possibly, the Clash at the Castle main event between Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre for that Undisputed Universal Championship could be the time that Reigns' over 2-year reign as Undisputed, Universal Champion at the very least, comes to an end, and possibly the championship being shifted from one person to another. That wasn't the case. Roman Reigns retained his championship from Solo Sikoa, but he remains undefeated as well in single competition for over 2 years at this point, leading some to speculate, when is the time? When is going to be the time? Who is going to be the person that defeats Roman Reigns for either one of those championships or for both of those championships? What is the plan going forward? Now, in the last few minutes as I record this, WrestleVotes, a very reputable online Twitter account, has actually opened up a little bit as to what the general thought process and mindset is surrounding Roman Reigns and his Undisputed Universal Championship reign at the moment. They have tweeted, quote, "The situation, easy for me to say, the situation with the world titles and Roman Reigns is so, quote, complex according to a source. They would like to go into Mania season and WrestleMania itself with 2 champions, but they also don't want Reigns losing at all prior. I'm told Triple H and co are open to all things creatively here." Now, this is, if you've watched any of the videos we've done recently talking about Roman Reigns, talking about the Undisputed Universal Championship, this is kind of similar to what I was saying I thought might be the case. And look, guys, I'll always hold my hand up here on the channel. This isn't a scoops channel. This isn't an exclusive channel. It's the news. I'll give you the news. I'll give you my opinion on it. We'll move on kind of situation. And from the outside looking in, this is kind of how I perceived it as, yes, clearly WWE has booked themselves massively into a corner right now when it comes to Roman Reigns, and they've got only themselves to blame. Not Triple H, not his creative team, because it wasn't him that made these decisions. But when it came to Roman Reigns, particularly unifying or putting together the championships at WrestleMania like they did this year, because they wanted to have a big match. They wanted to have the biggest WrestleMania match of all time because they wanted to sell tickets. The problem is when they did that is Roman Reigns then signed a part-time contract. So you've got a situation now whereby you've got this guy Roman Reigns who's holding both belts. He's appearing on less shows than he ever has before, but also they don't want him to lose because they want to build to a match eventually against The Rock and have that be one of the biggest WrestleMania WWE matches of all time, one of the biggest financial successful matches of all time. But at the meantime, they've got to get one of the belts off Roman Reigns because the show needs it and WrestleMania will need it. So what do? They find themselves in a catch-22 situation. What can they do? And they have to be really creative. They have to find a creative way to get out of this. And it is difficult. I think the only way to do this, truly, and I thought this is why they do it at Clash at the Castle, and maybe they still find a different direction to go in, is that really they've got kind of 2 options, I think. If you want to get one championship off Roman Reigns, and that championship would be the WWE Championship. I think they want to maintain the integrity of that Universal Championship reign because that's the belt that he's held for over 2 years. The WWE Championship is very recent. That was at WrestleMania earlier this year when he defeated Brock Lesnar. So they want to have him continue holding the Universal Championship. So how do you get the WWE Championship off Roman Reigns? Well, I think you do that by 2 means. One, as I mentioned, I think the Money in the Bank contract is key in this, and theory is key in this. And this is what I thought they could do at Clash at the Castle, whereby you've got a situation where Drew McIntyre, bang, hits Roman Reigns with a Claymore. They're both down. Out comes Austin Theory. He cashes in his Money in the Bank briefcase, making it a triple threat match. Then Drew McIntyre hits a Claymore on Austin Theory. 1, 2, 3. McIntyre thinks that he's won both bouts. But then Adam Pearce or someone else comes out and says, well, actually, because Austin Theory is a Raw superstar, his Money in the Bank contract is only valid for a WWE Championship match. Therefore, when this match was made a triple threat match, it was made a triple threat match for the WWE Championship. Therefore, Drew McIntyre is the WWE Champion. They could have done that, and they didn't. And that, is a very complex way of doing it. And there are several creative licenses with that one, because you would think that once a match gets made a triple threat match, it's just for both bouts. And also on top of that, you could argue that that Money in the Bank briefcase is valid for any World Championship opportunity. So why would it just be for a WWE Championship? And at the same time where the brand split really means nothing, we're seeing Raw and SmackDown superstars appear on both shows like nothing with no explanation. So why then would you suddenly take the brand split seriously? You don't really. So that's kind of a loose one. The other way they could do it, which I think does make somewhat sense as well, is just make it a stipulation. WrestleMania 2000 settings. They had a match at WrestleMania 2000. It was Chris Jericho versus Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit for both the Intercontinental and European Championships. Both bouts were on the line, but they were determined by two separate falls. Therefore, you could have a match which is Roman Reigns versus someone else versus Drew McIntyre. Well, let's say Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre versus Karrion Kross for both the WWE Championship and also for the for the Universal Championship rather, for two separate titles determined by two separate falls. What you could then have is, say, Drew McIntyre hit Karrion Kross with the Claymore, or whoever, or Karrion Kross choke out Drew McIntyre. They become the WWE Champion. Then Roman Reigns spears whoever, retains the Universal Championship. You've achieved taking one bout off Reigns, and he didn't actually lose. He didn't get pinned. That's the only way I can really see it happening, unless Reigns comes out to Raw and just says, I don't want the bout anymore. But what does that do for the WWE Championship? I don't know. And frankly, if the plan is still to have Roman Reigns versus The Rock at WrestleMania, does it even need a championship? The answer is no. If anything, having a championship on the line in that match makes it even more predictable, because The Rock isn't going to win the Universal Championship. That's why I've said I think the plan is, I really do think this has always been the plan from regime to regime, is Reigns versus The Rock for the Universal Championship. But Reigns wins that match. What is achieved in that apart from a lot of money? I don't know. I don't know at this point. So as the report mentions, things are very sort of open and fluid, and the only real possible viable way, like I said, is that both championships on the line in two separate falls kind of situation. I think that's the only way to do it. And to maintain the integrity of the Universal Championship and Roman Reigns remaining undefeated and not being pinned. I think that has to be the way. But we'll wait and see what they do. Let me know how you would solve this situation in the comment section below. Let's talk about Raw last night. Pretty eventful episode of Monday Night Raw. We have new Women's Tag Team Champions, which isn't totally surprising, must be said. After the controversial finish to the final of the Women's Tag Team Championship tournament 2 weeks ago, WWE announced two teams involved in that match would have a rematch. Now, of course, during the tournament final, where Raquel Rodriguez and Aaliyah faced Io Sky and Dakota Kai, Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair, Asuka, and Alexa Bliss got involved and cost their Clash at the Castle opponents the tag team titles, leaving Rodriguez and Aaliyah the new Women's Tag Team Champions. Now, there was some controversy about the legal competitor in the match, all this kind of stuff, so it led to a rematch. And the rematch took place last night on Raw. But this time, we have a different result and new Women's Tag Team Champions, as Sky and Kai ended the night standing tall in the ring with their hands held high, as the two women would come out as new tag team champions. This is the first time the two have held the women's tag team championships, but not the first time they have been tag team champions. Sky won the NXT Women's Tag Team Championship with former partner NXT star Zoe Stark. Of course, Kai formerly held the championship with Raquel Rodriguez in NXT. Now, it must be said, right call, obviously, and it would appear this was always the plan from the start. Why they decided to give the belts to Raquel Rodriguez and Aaliyah, the only thing I can think of is that they did it just so it wasn't a predictable finish, but they ended at this point anyway. So I don't really see the purpose, unless they just wanted to extend things out. They didn't want to waste it all at one point, maybe. I don't know. I really don't know, because does it make the heel tag team look strong? Not really. I mean, I guess they're heels and they got their way and they complain. That's what they do. But why did they do it? I don't know. Unless they just wanted to have more momentum or more of an issue going into Clash at the Castle? Maybe. I'm not sure. I don't know really the answer to that one, but they got there in the end. And I think also it leads to Bayley defeating Bianca Belair, possibly at Extreme Rules or whenever they have their match for the Raw Women's Championship. And then you have Damage Control holding all of the bouts on Monday Night Raw. I think that's the direction that they go in. It's also, I guess, a reason for Damage Control to appear on SmackDown. Not that they need one, because, again, the way it's going at the moment, the brand split means absolutely nothing. Speaking of title matches, though, next week on Raw, we've got a United States Championship match. And it's going to be a good one. Bobby Lashley putting the gold on the line against Seth freaking Rollins. Now, Rollins ran into Lashley backstage during Raw last night. Rollins called himself the face of Monday Night Raw, which Lashley didn't take too kindly to. He told Rollins he who has the gold is the face of Monday Night Raw, which is a good point considering there is no world champion on Raw at the moment. Whilst Reigns is technically the champion of Raw, he's never on that show. Rollins then said that while Lashley's title isn't exactly what he had in mind, he said he would be going after gold. He would gladly take it off his shoulders before throwing out the challenge, which Lashley then accepted. So we're going to get Rollins versus Lashley next week, and frankly, Rollins should win. I know Lashley is, this dominating US champion, and I think that obviously the presentation of the US Championship and the Intercontinental Championship, for that matter, under Triple H has absolutely improved. Absolutely it has. But Rollins should really win that. And I know that you could argue is the feud between Rollins and Riddle even over? Possibly not. We saw a thing last night where Judgment Day maybe tried to recruit Riddle. Where is that going to lead? I doubt to something more. But, I mean, in real life, Riddle, Priest, and Ripley are very good friends. Maybe that's what they're trying to play off. I don't know. But realistically, I think Rollins deserves the title. And if they're not going to give him the WWE Championship, which it doesn't look like at the moment, again, whoever wins the WWE Championship seems to be either Drew McIntyre or Karrion Kross in the near future. And that's happening on SmackDown. Then I guess eventually it'll bleed over to Raw, maybe. If that's what they're going to do and they're focusing on that, have Rollins become the US Champion. He's at this point, he is the face of Raw. He truly is. The year he has had has been sensational. And it makes sense to continue to build up Seth Rollins. He'd lost so many matches this year on Raw, and he's done the best work of his career, in my opinion, this year on Raw. If you look at the totality of his work, it's been sensational. It really has. He deserves to win the US Championship, build up more and more, and eventually Cody Rhodes will come back and they'll feud, and that will tie into maybe Cody Rhodes doing something big at WrestleMania as well. I think that's the way to go. And the American Dream going after the US Championship makes a ton of sense too. I think that makes sense for me. So I think hopefully Seth Rollins wins that one. Last night also saw the return of Johnny Gargano to in-ring action, his first wrestling match in 9 months. Yes, his first match back since December 2021. Johnny Gargano elicited "This is awesome" chants from the Moda Center in Portland, Oregon, proving that he hasn't lost a single step. Gargano went on to defeat Chad Gable with the one final beats for the pinfall victory after fending off outside interference from Otis. Now, after the match, Gargano continued to deal with Otis. Austin Theory then ambushed his former The Way stablemate from behind with the Money in the Bank briefcase. Theory then took a selfie with the fallen Gargano before yelling that Johnny Wrestling is an overrated bottom-feeding fish at the bottom of the food chain. Theory's promo led to Kevin Owens stepping out to confront the brash young superstar, leading to a brawl between the two. The brawl would end with Theory's nose getting busted open, with Owens shouting, "That broken nose is just the beginning, bitch." Now, it would appear that WWE could be building to an Owens vs. Theory match at the upcoming Extreme Rules Premium Live event. Fans on social media are also saying the following could happen: maybe Owens and Gargano versus Theory and Gable or Otis in the coming weeks. Possibly a 6-man tag as well. We've seen Braun Strowman feuding with Alpha Academy, so we could see maybe Owens, Gargano, and Strowman versus Theory, Gable, and Otis. Possibly that could happen going forward at Extreme Rules. But it was great to see Gargano back, of course. Tremendous addition to the Raw roster, and I can't see a situation, honestly. I know people are saying, it might be Owens versus Theory, but Gargano's clearly involved in all of this. We saw the promo a couple of weeks ago when Gargano returned, and that was Gargano and Theory. And I know Kevin Owens has got his thing going on, but Gargano's involved in all of this, clearly. So I think the most logical situation is that 6-man tag that they have at Extreme Rules, and it can be some kind of mass 6-man extreme brawl. They can have some kind of gimmick, clearly, and that could be a lot of fun. So keep an eye out for that one. Raw took a strange turn last night because Dexter Lumis appeared outside the house of The Miz. Now, of course, The Miz has been tormented by Dexter Lumis in previous weeks. He's been kidnapped on 2 occasions, and because of this, The Miz refused to show up in Portland for this week's show. WWE aired a pre-taped interview from his home. Now, the segment began with The Miz and his 2 children playing the piano and spending some quality family time. Maurice then walked in, reminding her husband they have a huge premiere to attend. However, a reluctant Miz asked his wife if she was comfortable leaving the home, alluding to the threat posed by Lumis. This led to Maurice asking The Miz if it's really all about that freak, while reminding him they have a foolproof security system in place, including security guards and surveillance cameras, and that Lumis, even if he wanted to, could never invade their home. It's like an episode of Casualty over here in the UK. You just know what's going to happen after they say that. The Miz then kissed Maurice while agreeing with his wife. However, he suddenly snapped at the sight of a cameraman wearing shoes inside the house, asking the cameraman to never utter the words Dexter Lumis during the course of their interview. The Miz then informed the camera interviewer that he had a police escort to the arena the previous week. WWE hired double the security for the arena, and all of those preventative measures were still not enough to stop Lumis invading his space. This led to the cameraman inquiring what Lumis did to The Miz after kidnapping him. However, The Miz refused to answer the question, yelling that the interview was over. But just as The Miz sent the cameraman packing, Lumis was seen staring in from the outside. This was followed by The Miz and his family getting into the car and driving off. The segment ended with Lumis holding up a caricature of The Miz and his family, which of course can be seen in the image on the screen right now. I know it's not for everyone, but I would argue that it's something different. And if you've watched NXT, he did this all the time. He did it to Cameron Grimes, I remember, in NXT. The issue is with Dexter Lumis is, where do you go? Where do you go after this? Okay, he's a stalker. Okay. What does he do? And also, you feel bad for The Miz. I know The Miz is like a bit of a D-bag, right? And that's the point of it. But eventually, if someone's stalking you do feel bad. You feel bad for The Miz. So I don't know where they'll go with this one, honestly. This is interesting news here. We heard this previously about Ryan Katz, former NXT creative member and writer Ryan Katz returning to WWE. This has been backed up by PW Insider. Word going around NXT is that Ryan Katz will soon be returning to the promotion, possibly as soon as this week. Now, of course, he's best known for appearing on MTV's Wrestling Society X. Katz began working for WWE back in 2015 as a creative producer for the NXT brand. He was released from WWE earlier this year, but the wrestler-turned-producer recently confirmed on his own podcast that he would soon be returning to promotion after Levesque assumed power once again following Vince McMahon's retirement. But Katz doesn't appear to be the only one likely to get his job back. PW Insider further noted that there is talk of more members of Levesque's crew who helped put together the black and gold era of NXT that could be eyed for a potential return. Now, of course, it's difficult. No other names were mentioned, nor was it revealed whether these returning names would resume working in NXT or be part of Levesque's team on the main roster, because we do know that in addition to Katz, Road Dogg is now back in WWE as well. According to PW Insider, Road Dogg officially began his duties as the Vice President of Live Events a few weeks ago, shortly after Jeff Jarrett's departure from the position, and Road Dogg's return were confirmed, once again, via PW Insider, and Road Dogg also confirming this on his podcast. Now, while not giving an official date for his return, PW Insider noted that the belief for Road Dogg's first day back with WWE occurred during the last full week of August, which would place his return between August 22nd and August 26th. Now, other people that have been associated with Triple H in the past have positions of power in NXT include the likes of William Regal, currently with AEW, Billy Gunn, currently with AEW, Gabe Sapolsky, which I don't really know what he's doing right now, so we'll have to wait and see, Samoa Joe as well with AEW, so it's going to be a while before Triple H can actually fully get his guys back, because they're locked into contracts and doing other things, and whilst obviously they might have huge respect for Triple H and loved what they did and when they were working with him in the past, that's not to say that they're completely unhappy in AEW right now. I know there's chaos going on in that company, but that's not to say that they're totally unhappy. I said this before. I expect Triple H to reassemble his team. It's going to take a while because of contracts, and it's not going to happen overnight. People talking about, oh, Kevin Dunn and Bruce Pritchard, they're going to leave WWE. Yeah, they are, but it's not going to happen overnight because they have to fill those positions as well. It takes a while. to assemble a team, especially a team in the image that Triple H wants them to be. So we'll have to wait and see when it comes to that one. Finally, SmackDown delivered huge in the ratings on Friday, and WWE's ratings increase under Triple H just continued to get better and better and better. Really impressive stuff by Paul Levesque. Friday's Clash at the Castle Fallout episode of SmackDown averaged 2.367 million viewers on Fox. Now, to give some reference, that is up 14% from the previous week. It's the best viewership for the show since June, and the second best viewership number for SmackDown so far in 2022. Only one episode of SmackDown has done a higher number than that, 2.367 million viewers. Now, SmackDown drew a 0.57 rating in the 18-49 demographic, which is also up a whopping 16.3% from the previous week. It's SmackDown's best demo rating since July 22nd. The show led all the broadcast networks in 18-49, but finished second on television behind ESPN's coverage of the US Open, which toppled the cable charts with a 0.67 rating. SmackDown also went up against college football on ESPN2, which did a 0.52. But again, SmackDown did better than college football. That isn't bad whatsoever. And as compared to the same week in 2021, SmackDown was actually down 0.7% in total viewers and down to 12.3% in 18-49. So again, it must be said, year on year, they are still down slightly. That is television. That is difficult. But they'll be very, very happy with those numbers. And so will Fox. And again, it goes to show that whatever Triple H is doing on Raw particularly, and that felt like a just completely dead show. The way Triple H has been able to resurrect that show is beyond impressive, and the numbers for SmackDown are very good too. And who would have thought it? To resurrect both shows and to deliver in the ratings, you deliver a good product. What a novel concept. But Triple H absolutely deserves a ton of credit for that. So there's your latest WWE news, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Be sure to smash a like on the like button and be sure to subscribe bottom right hand corner. And I'll speak for you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.